tell us about your journey. How did you end up on marches and being a member of the far right movement with the English Defence League?
So my journey started when I was young. So when I was like 12, 13, 14, I went to a school in Beeston, in Leeds, and it was half dominant Pakistani and half white. And obviously there were Bengalis and some black people, but it started off with the white people and Pakistanis fighting each other all the time. But I kind of stayed away from all that because I played rugby and I was quite a quiet kid anyway. In general, I was quiet. I was reluctant of playing rugby, and I didn't want to get involved in, because I had Pakistani friends and I had white friends, but I hung about with the white people a lot more because that's where you were pushed to, really. So they really put me in that scale of people. So, but I lived on the Pakistani side of because in Beeston there's a park called Crossflats Park, and one side was white and the other side was a Pakistani area. And if people live there, they'll understand what I'm on about, what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I lived in the Pakistani area. So when I used to walk home from school, I used to get jumped by 15 of the Pakistanis. And I got jumped for 2 years straight, once, twice, 3 times a week. I was getting jumped by these Pakistanis. But I'm quite a stubborn person in general. I walked the same way home every night, still, even though they were beating me up. I never told anyone that it was happening. And it was 2 years down the line when I thought, you know what, I'm getting sick of this, you know what I mean? Every day or every other day or every, I'm walking home and I know what's going to happen. So I ran home once and I was quite fast to play rugby. I was quite fast. And as I ran into my house, my mum and my stepdad was in the kitchen and they went, "What are you doing?" Because I've come storming in. I went, "The Pakistanis are chasing me." And they both said at this kind of same time, is that go out and fight them, because I come from a family where they're like, if you know, go fight them. So I went back out and I fought 2 of them and I beat them up, and then the other one ran off. And from then they left me alone. But that left me scarred, as I kind of looked at Pakistanis and I generalised every single Pakistani as them sort of people who do that. So I grew up, but I was a Christian. I went to church as well. I went to a thing called Boys Brigade, and so I studied the Bible and stuff like that. And but my connection with Christianity was lost within reading and studying the Bible, because I didn't believe Jesus was God, and I didn't believe he was the Son of God. I believed that he was a prophet that would have given us a message, and I always believed that since I was young. From reading the scripture to going to the church, there were 2 different messages. So I was lost in that sense, and I was also getting beat up by the Pakistanis. So when I was 17, I left the church, and I would have said that I was still a Christianity, but I decided to go to the pub instead, where I felt more welcome, more accepted. And I started going to the pub, and that's where I met a guy who went through the same stuff as me. So we related to the point where we was talking about it all the time. And he had the same problems and issues with some of the Pakistani lads as well. But at that time, I was angry. I was frustrated, and we met another guy, and he was a bit more racist than us, because he'd do it, even though I hated the Pakistanis for what they did. I never used any I can't even say the word. I never used any words that would offend their race or the skin or anything like that. But this guy would. And I was a bit wary with him at first. And I was saying to that other guy, nah, we don't want to, because he was asking us to go to this meeting, to go to these meetings or something. So and I'm like, nah, he's way too racist for us. Because he was saying all sorts of different stuff. And I said, I don't really, because my mum brought me up in a way that not to be racist no matter what. So I wasn't too keen on the idea. And it was 2 months down the line, he asked us again, and we thought, you know what, we'll go. And we went to this meeting. I didn't know what it was. This lad didn't know what it was, and they were showing videos of like honor killing, FGM, but every person who was doing that had brown skin and a beard.
Mm-hmm.
So on these videos, I just thought, wow, look at them. I was thinking, well, that's what the Muslims are going to do to us. They're going to do it to our kids. They're going to do it to this. And hearing all sorts of stuff like about the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of being a warlord, having a 6-year-old as a wife and stuff. When you've got no moral compass and you live in and you don't understand the fallacy of presentism and stuff like that, it's difficult. I mean, to understand that. So all that, then seeing the burning of the poppies, and seeing that side of all your, because when you go down that path, you're only getting shown that path.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting seen. You don't see the good. You want to see the bad.
Mm-hmm.
So in your little box mind, who's already frustrated with the Pakistanis already, you're in tunnel vision. So you're like, oh wow, this is going to happen here. This is what's going to happen. And they started talking about like going on marches and trying to stop this from happening. Well, for me, I thought that was a good idea because I thought, we can't be having this in our country for our people. So then I went on a few marches and stuff like that, and it was, but I was with them for like, I'd say 4 years, but it was 2 years. It was 2 years in when I started asking questions. Like I was kind of like backed off, like I'd just go and just do what I'm doing. But it was like a lad's day out for me, like really. I was addicted to cocaine and alcohol, unfortunately at that time, and there was a lot of that involved. So I ended up going, and it was 2 years down the line I've been there and thinking to myself, what am I actually doing here? I don't even know what the Quran is or who this prophet is in reality. And I started asking questions, and people started backing off, saying, nah, just you don't really want to read that. So I'm like, but we need to understand it, because I'm getting at that point I'm questioning everything.
Yeah.
And I was just staying with them just to like, at that point it was just because that's all I knew at that point. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So for the next 2 years I'd just go on marches and marches, but I wasn't enjoying it near the end. And near to the end I was like, you know what, I can't be doing that anymore, because we've been doing it for so long. Mm-hmm. We're just doing the same thing over and over again, and nothing's changing.
Yeah.
But at this point, I had a friend that was a taxi driver, and he was a Pakistani, and he was a really nice guy. And I had 2 other friends. There was Pakistani, but I thought they were Sikhs.
Okay.
So basically, I thought they were Sikhs, and I had them. So I thought, do you know what? I'm doing an injustice by going with the English Defence League and doing what I'm doing when I've got these friends who I think that they treat me better than some of my friends that are part of the English Defence League. So I come away from it, and it was a sense of relief when I came away from it. But I still didn't understand what. I still had that frustration of the Pakistanis. So it was like, why did I do? I was thinking, why have I done this? Because it's not even got rid of that frustration that I've got.
Yeah.
So I spent like a good 4 years like contemplate, and I didn't get one answer who the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was. I thought the Prophet Muhammad was a Pakistani. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
So all the time I thought it was a Pakistani. So I'm like, I didn't know he was from the Arabian Peninsula. I didn't know that he was who he was. I didn't even know who he was or anything. So I kind of just left it, and then come away from it and just carried on with my life, and it went to the back of my mind, all this, and then I started to look at the people in the same way, to be honest.